Hello, everyone can hear me? All right, so I'll start off with a little joke. So I went to a fortune teller last week. They're like, you know what, you have stage phobia. And then I was like, oh, I don't know if that's gonna do my job. And then she's like, you know what, it's fine, everything is gonna go virtual. So you will never gonna have opportunity to be on the stage. And then I wonder, well, last 2 years, people constantly saying that the office is dead. But the thing is, we're still here, right? So, like, I'm still here on the stage. The virtual is there as well. But the thing is, this is a totally new experience, which, I still think that's quite essential. So it's the same as office. When we all believe that, oh, the office might be dead, we hear all this kind of news from the media, we believe that tomorrow may not come. What are we going to do as speakers? As brokers, what are we going to do as landlords? But the thing is, you know what? It's a new world. We're here with a new spirit and with the new perspectives. So today, I'm actually very honored to be here, to come from different perspectives, to sitting with all this amazing panelists to learn more about the future of, the office space. But then actually, before I start, I wanted to, ask our audience one question. So, yeah. Thank you. I wanted to ask our audience a question, how many of you all are actually working with brokers? If you may raise your hands. Okay, cool. And how many of you are working with landlords? Awesome. And how many of you all doing incredible innovations for the real estate? I love that. Thank you. Yeah, so it looks like, this is a great diversity of people. So my goal for this panel is obviously, right, so no matter what role you are doing in real estate, I hope, you are able to come away with a new kind of something new. It could be a new idea, new perspective, and also, new strategy, which you can apply to your business to make you guys more, successful in the things that you are doing. All right, so let me actually introduce our wonderful speakers for today. So we have Trevor Markey. Did I pronounce it right? Marika. Okay, all right. See, that's the stage phobia is doing. Yeah. All right, yeah, so Trevor, is the president and also the founder of Realty Ads, which is a SaaS marketing platform that actually leverages the digital channels, to the decision makers proactively. So they're representing brokers nationwide, representing, the whole customer's journey. Welcome, Sam. Welcome, Trevor. Okay, I'll try. Yeah, and also we also have Aisling Gregory. So she is the VP of Marketing and Communication at the World Trade Center and, Silverstein Properties. So Aisling oversees and also directs marketing strategies for Silversteins. So her experience including, direct the right marketing strategies representing the clients by delivering the best office experience to welcome, clients come back to the office. Welcome, Aisling. Yeah. We also have Sam. So Sam is the operating partner for Modern Venture. So he has many years working experience with, national kind of leading brokerage and also WeWork. So now Sam is representing Modern Venture. So he actually is responsible for identifying the challenges in the real estate and also, define the problems or the solutions, to help, great companies with great solutions to meet the current market demands. Yeah, thank you. Welcome to all of you to have this channel, and also thank you for all of you to be here join us this morning. Yeah, so just in case I missed anything, so I would like to invite you guys, to add more introductions about, some of the unique things that you are doing, and also, what really excites you in this field. Please, I'll start with, you, Trevor.
Okay, good. The mic's working. No, I think the only thing that I feel is pertinent is I actually began my career in brokerage. I did about 10 years in office brokerage with predominantly Cushman & Wakefield out of the Chicago office. So when we started and founded our company, Realty Ads, it was, how do we help brokers execute effectively on their mission of leasing more space? And so everything we do is in that context. And in fact, much of our staff, even some of those that are here today, are former brokers, which I do think is important to note. But outside of that, you hit the nail on the head.
Oh, that's cool. And what about Ashley? Would you like to?
Hi there. As Vicky said, I'm VP of Marketing at Silverstein Properties, where I oversee our office portfolio. I began my career at Silverstein, where I ran our events program at the World Trade Center. I also ran our residential portfolio marketing, and I've also helped kind of lead our new hospitality experience called Inspire. So I think in everything that I do, I enjoy kind of bringing that kind of B to C experience to life and creating a sticky brand that is too hard to leave. So that's me.
Thank you.
Great. Sam DeLisi. I have a 41-year career in commercial real estate. And so mostly around experiential property management and the things that we're going to be talking about today, frankly. And so over the last 10 years, I've been involved with Modern Ventures in helping mentor some of the companies that are going through their platform, their program. And what I've really grown to love is working with founders, right? The passion, the commitment, and that really inspires me to help them be successful. And that's what our Passport program at Modern Ventures is about, and that's what I love to do. So really excited about this discussion.
Yes, thank you all of you guys for the wonderful introduction. So I'll also add a little bit introduction about myself. So I actually come from a co-working space experience. So in the past 6 years, I have been building my own co-working space brand, which we expanded to 10 cities global-wise, including China and the US. Our focus is actually helping fast-growing companies in tech to actually, launch their satellite office in both China and US. Clients including limelight, Impossible Food, Netflix, and also Tencent Cloud. So that's really what, something that I have been doing personally in the past 6 years. So, as COVID hits, and also actually I would like to say, like before that, I constantly wondering about, what's the future of the office space, right? So I definitely seen that as a lot of companies, they become more distributed, right? So they actually start working with teams distributedly, like everywhere. That actually constantly make me to think that, is there like the office is definitely changing? Is there a better solution that I can provide besides than co-working space? Because the same times that I discover a lot of companies that they still wanted to have their own identities, but then the same times they still wanted to have a flexible term or kind of like an all-inclusive service within the space. So therefore, recently I just launched my new company, which is a marketplace. We actually help companies with their flexible office demands to match with small medium-sized landlords throughout the market to provide the flexible office experience. Yeah, so that's also one of the reasons I wanted to be here to really learn about what's really changing from all of your perspective. Yeah, so my first question is as COVID has brought massive changes or challenges in the market, so would you mind kind of like elaborating more about, in your perspective, what really has been changing, from the company's demands in terms of the office space, and also, what are the ways that, the brokers or the landlords has also been adopting, to elaborate that changes. Yeah, I'll start with you. Yeah, sure, please.
So obviously, COVID triggered the world's largest work-from-home experiment, which posed a very massive threat to our industry. And it also opened up like a global conversation across all levels of an organization, from intern to CEO, around the workplace. And for the first time ever, C-level decision makers are really considering workplace preferences of their talent. So that became like a very big conversation that we need to be a part of. At Silverstein, we had to start from the basics and understand, listen to what our customers want and adapt to their needs and just give it to them. It's kind of simple, I guess. What we uncovered was that people really love the autonomy that you get kind of from owning your day when you work from home. They love the element of choice. But what they're still kind of yearning for is these like in-person experiences that boost collaboration and culture. And those things are really, really difficult to maintain from home. So what we did at Silverstein is we kind of used these insights to literally modify our product. We kind of expanded upon our Inspire program, which is our tenant experience offering, and we decided to offer every single one of our tenants across our national portfolio access to every single one of our amenity spaces, co-working spaces, conferencing spaces, all of the programming. And basically, this kind of gives all of our tenants the ability to kind of choose the best work environment for their needs on any given day. And what we realize is that we're really not in the business of real estate anymore. We're in the business of productivity and employee engagement. So I think that's kind of really what we've had to focus on over the last 2 years.
Cool. What about you, Trevor?
I think for Realty Ads, the way we're assisting, and I neglected to mention it earlier, for those that don't know, Realty Ads, we're a software company. We're marketing over 400 million square feet of product in 85 markets. And I think what we're seeing from our clientele is really a need to, A, invest in new initiatives to promote their spaces, whether that's air filtration systems, and then the second side of that is getting that message to the marketplace. If your customers are not coming in to your front door every day, it doesn't do you any good to make all those investments in your asset if no one knows about it, right? So what our customers are doing, it's almost a twofold strategy. It's first implementing some flex office solutions, air quality controls, safety measures. Beacon Capital Partners is a great example of this, right? They just partnered with a healthcare provider to go in the lobby of all their buildings. And then phase 2 of that is now, that's great. We're making it more comfortable for our customers to come back into our building. Let's go push that message to the marketplace. Mm-hmm. And so we're really seeing that two-staged approach, right? Identify how you can make your customers welcome, mm-hmm. and then make sure they're aware of the things you're doing to make the building safer, make the building more enjoyable, and to really encourage the back to work, which everyone, I think, is anxious to see happen.
Wow, cool. So for the things that you're doing, is this just like purely contents driven, or do you guys also elaborate with, let's say, virtual tours to make it more welcoming?
No, absolutely. It's all of the above. So in the virtual tours, it's another prime example of what I'm talking about. KBS invested heavily in virtual tours right at the beginning of COVID, and almost portfolio-wide, every single building, every single space they were trying to catalog. And so that's a significant, cost. And what they realized is, okay, now I've got these virtual tours. How are brokers seeing them? How are, prospects? How are existing customers that may be one floor above on space that hasn't been touched in 10 years going to see what's going on one floor below? So they, of course, took that content, and then they're leveraging Realty Ads to push that content out through all the various digital channels, be that LinkedIn, be that Instagram, be that Facebook, to make sure they're reaching the brokers more effectively and also the customer.
Oh, cool. Thank you. What about Sam, from your perspective?
I just want to follow up on that,
Sure.
if that's okay. So how are they measuring the effectiveness of how that campaign is going?
Yeah, absolutely. So really it's by reach, right? And you can track incredible amounts of data with digital channels. And historically, I think back to my days as a broker, we were relying on listing services or email blasts or open houses. And all of these communication events, if you will, do not offer you the type of ROI that the digital channels can offer you in terms of cost effectiveness or transparency. So we can go back to our customers, and a lot of them have exact ideas of who they want to reach. For instance, lists of brokers in a given market, existing customers, tenants in the market, right? And we can give them exact percentages of those audiences they're reaching. So if a customer says, I want to promote my message to the top 200 brokers in the marketplace in Chicago, we can't tell them because of privacy law, oh yes, Steve Bauer saw this ad for your building at 11:04 p.m. last night, right? Mm-hmm. No one can. It's just privacy law violation. But what we can say is, of course, 94% of that list saw your message, right? And in those types of ways, by guaranteeing, all but guaranteeing that your message is going to reach the right people, it's helped justify the original expense and capital expenditures you put into making your building a more welcoming, safer environment.
Gotcha. We're sort of covering our bets. We're looking at technologies like Trevor's and looking at how you can help people lease their existing office space, but we're also placing bets in areas. What about the distributed workforce, right? How do you help companies support the fact that we don't believe people are coming back to the office 5 days a week, right? We think it's going to be some form of hybrid future, but that hybrid future creates other issues for corporations, right? They're worried about their ability to develop their employees. They're worried about their ability to really create culture when people aren't in the office, right? And so there's some interesting technologies out there in that space. And then there's another whole level of stuff that we're looking at in the virtual tour space, where you can sort of stop it and say, oh, what's that person wearing? Can I buy that? Can I get that desk? How do I get that light fixture, right? So there's different ways to engage people in your tours that you didn't have before. Mm-hmm. And so we're looking at all of it, and frankly, very excited about all the options, right? In some respects, with some buildings that are old and don't have great HVAC systems, you might be rearranging the furniture on the Titanic, right? The deck furniture. It might be tough. But the business isn't going away, right? It's now figuring out how to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck in terms of how you're marketing and creating those values.
Cool, thank you. I think, Ashley, you actually made a super valuable point that, so companies today, definitely they're more looking to host like employee experience to their client or to their company or to their employees, sorry. So, like from your perspective, you represent, one of the largest real estate developer. So I bet that, because now the company's preference has changed to focus more of the individual kind of experience, they all have different preference. So how do you actually, oversee your strategies changing from, a B2B type of like marketing to maybe something a little bit involved with B2C marketing?
So even before the pandemic, we were very heavily focused on all of our audiences. We realized very soon into a deal at the World Trade Center that we couldn't only pitch C-level decision makers when it comes to making leasing decisions. We almost lost a deal because we didn't consider the power of influence that the rank and file employees have. So we have kind of over the last 8 years that I've been with Silverstein have always focused on targeting that audience. As far as what we have done to kind of ensure that all of the talent in all of the 30,000 people in our buildings are kind of making a life while making a living, we offer all of our services and our programs through our own kind of proprietary app called Inspire Your Day. And we're able to understand from this app, like people can use it to check in through the turnstile, so we know when they're in the office, we know when they've signed up for a various class, we know then when they've kind of purchased a meal to get delivered to their desk, and we're able then to adapt the programming and all of the services based on those insights. So that's...
You're basically saying that, data is plays a very important role to help you to navigate what's the best kind of marketing strategies to launch.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. And then I would like to, have your opinion, Trevor. Your platform, heavily involved a lot of, data analytics, right? So, there are kind of all kind of data everywhere. If I were a broker, I'm probably going to receive, different kind of data. So, in your opinion, as a broker, let's say, so he or she, is eager to rent the space out. What kind of data that you think can be the most valuable to them?
Yeah, so my opinion of where we are, I know this is a prop tech conference, so we'll talk about prop tech a little bit, but Gen 1 of prop tech was getting ownership groups to centralize their data. Mm-hmm. And once you have that data centralized, you can put it to work in any number of ways, right? Create operational efficiencies throughout your entire portfolio. So we're helping our customers, our most sophisticated customers, we're integrating data from a variety of sources, everything from Salesforce to Constant Contact to our own partnerships that we give our customers access to. But I'll give you an example. And, there's a leasing and management platform. I see Alex over there, so I'll reference Dotted here. If a broker in a given market goes into Dotted and they say, this company toured today, right? Now we have a data point.
Right.
Now we want to use that data point to help us effectively lease space. So what we're doing is a customer goes back in, a broker goes into their leasing and management platform. They say, this company toured today at Realty Ads. We pull that information automatically from their systems through our integrations. And that customer is then going to go use pretty much anything with a digital screen, whether they're reading the Wall Street Journal or checking their stocks on CNBC. And they are now going to be targeted with that building's message. Maybe it's that Ashling wants to promote the flexible office nature of it. And through these different integration or data, integrations, you can even prioritize different messages to different customers at different times.
Right.
So if in your leasing and management platform, you know something like stage of the deal, we can deliver certain messages to certain customers at certain stages of the deal and
That's
ultimately tie it all back to the end all be all, which is of course revenue generated, right? You reach this customer over 150 times for 8 consecutive months prior to them executing a lease worth $33 million. And oh, by the way, you did it on less than $20,000 in marketing costs, right?
Yeah.
So using these different data integrations, I think that's where Gen 2 of PropTech is going. It's creating those operational efficiencies. And what I love about it in particular is, as a former broker, to put my broker hat on, it's completely automatic.
Right.
So me, the broker, I don't need to go in and do anything else outside of my normal daily routine. So that's how we're pulling in data, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's HubSpot, Constant Contact, MailChimp, VTS, et cetera. We can access that information and use it to power leasing activities that, of course, those of us in marketing are trying to get at.
I see. And also, I have a challenging question. I don't know if this is appropriate to ask. So, basically, what I'm seeing right here is, so you are almost like representing the consultancy for department for big firms, right? So when a lot of brokers are able to access to this data, which is more precise, more navigating, so there might be a lot more individual brokers who no longer are going to need to work for large corporate or for kind of like national leading firm. Do you see that might coming with the application of data becomes more accessible to all those brokers?
I think certainly if data is truly accessible to anyone, then of course I think some of the larger brokerages lose some of their muster. But everything I'm seeing in the marketplace today is that the access to data that the larger brokerages have make it a pretty seamless transaction in terms of or give them a slight competitive edge, right? That's assuming, and this is where brokerage is very entrepreneurial, that the brokers at those larger firms use all the tools at their disposal, which is not always the case.
Yeah,
right?
Cool, thank you. And Sam, what about you? How do you think about the integration between the new technology and the marketing piece?
It's all about data, right? Data. The question is, how do you take that data and create insights that are valuable, right? Otherwise it's just bits and bytes. And if you're not able to take that data and draw some conclusions or create some strategies going forward, it doesn't help you very much. And I agree, a lot of brokers, and that's my background, don't take advantage of all the access to the technologies and the data that they have. And they really short themselves and their clients in that process, I think. But we're not interested in technologies that don't generate data that we can be actionable, right? And that's really the key, I think. But you're spot on. Data is what it's all about.
Cool.
I have a question for you, actually, because this is the hardest part of my job is obviously the marketing attribution tool. And we found it so difficult that we're actually building something in-house, like a massive data warehouse that we actually built for our residential portfolio that's working tremendously well, and our tech team is adapting it for office. It's a little bit easier, obviously, in kind of a residential market because the sales cycle is so much faster. But when we're dealing with 18-month, a leasing cycle, that's been the hardest part of our job because so much of tracking every single data point has become pretty manual. So I have to rely on our tech team to build out this proprietary, data warehouse for us to make these informed decisions. So I'm curious to know it sounds like I need to sign up for Realty Ads.
Yeah. So thank you, and our VP of Growth over here, Nicole, will walk you through anything Realty Ads related. But yeah, that's exactly. We are desperately trying to help commercial real estate go from marketing efforts, which to me have long been antiquated because they're not proactive. You take a listing service, for instance. You can't tell that listing service, go get my building in front of decision makers or influencers at this company. You have to hope someone goes to the website where they hopefully find your building amongst all the others. And then even some of those listing services will recommend your 4 competitors, options on the same page. So what we're trying to do is take a much more transparent, measurable approach and simultaneously, to Sam's point, give our customers actionable data about, hey, now would be a really good time for your brokerage team to pick up the phone because this tenant has looked at your building 53 times in the last 3 weeks, right? And specifically the decision makers at that company. So, to use an example close to home, One World Trade is a customer of ours, and Emmanuelle, she's really smart. She runs marketing over at Durst and Ivy League, and she's encountering some of the same stuff that you are. And to Emmanuelle's credit, she really pushed us, and we never go so far as to say we're the procuring cause of a deal. Certainly, we've seen 200,000 square foot inquiries from CBRE to C&W through Instagram in Manhattan. We have seen that, and we can track it when it happens entirely through our platform. But we can absolutely quantify and show our customers how we participated in the deal, how we got your message, whatever the message was that marketing or brokerage wanted to deliver to the marketplace in front of the critical audiences you wanted to reach. We can break it down by month. And, it could be the right economics that get the deal done. It could be the right location. It could be a number of factors, the right marketing message that you created. But what we can do, unlike any other communication channel, I think, in the business, is show how we've participated in that deal throughout the uniquely long sales cycle that you're referencing that we have in commercial real estate, right? We're not selling shoes where you can, see on Instagram a pair of shoes you want and you click buy, right? You got to stay ahead of your customer, be it the decision makers or the influencers. You got to stay in front of their representation, whether that's JLL or CB or Cushman. And you got to do it routinely and for a really long time if you want to be truly competing for tenants at the highest level, and that's what we do. And the ultimate, and this is where I was going with all this, but we were working with Emmanuelle on some of the new report cards we're tying out for next year and how we're communicating success to our customers. But the end-all, be-all is for you to walk into Larry's office and say, hey, Larry, here's what we spent on marketing, and then here's this, 9-figure deal, that we got done. And that's the type of correlation we're really keen on driving for the customers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think, it just cover, the importance of, the new adoptions on, having a better way to approach lead generation. So Sam, actually, in your opinion, since, you have working experience, from the brokerage and also WeWork, which is kind of, the new generation of office leasing. And also now you are moving into, the venture side. So, the leasing process has been a little bit complicated, right? So all the way from understanding the client's needs, prepare your tours, and also taking them to tours, and also back and forth negotiation, and also, maybe some of the deals might fall off. You have to repeat the same process, and also all the way to, management, contract management. So, today, obviously that a lot of, clients, they're looking for something more flexible, which means, the volume of office size becomes smaller, and also the term might also become smaller, right? So obviously brokers here, we don't have so much time, helping a lot of companies with smaller requests. And also they might just gonna go somewhere that is suburban, that is really out of the control. So in your opinion, how do you think that, the technology can actually come in to improve the efficiency in the leasing process?
Well, a couple of things. I think we're clearly seeing the ability for organizations like WeWork and Industrious and Convene and others, right? You can absolutely transact a license agreement, I guess technically, without the person ever setting foot in the building, right? It's all set up on the virtual tour and that whole process. And that's going to be a big part of it, right? And I do believe deal sizes and terms are going to continue to shrink until people really start to figure it out. I mean, who believes this is the last pandemic? Anybody? Anybody believe this is the last one? Right? Of course it's
I
not.
hope so. I hope so.
Of course it's not, right? There's going to be more. And so the scenario that we're sort of leading into is one of uncertainty. And when uncertainty, people like shorter terms and smaller spaces if they can, right? Until they can figure it out. But clearly there's already technologies out there that are taking people end to end like that. And that's happening, and I think that's going to continue to happen. I'm really blown away, Trevor, by what you guys are doing. I didn't realize, and again, I'm sort of dating myself, but in the day, right, the relationship that your agency brokers had with the tenant rep brokers in the marketplace is how you really got deals done. And marketing was more air support for those relationships. It sounds like you're democratizing the process a little more and giving people more optionality in that space.
Yes, so that's exactly right. Brokers log into our platform to pick and choose exactly who they want to reach, right? Some of those examples I talked about, growing tenants in your own portfolio, that competitor the broker knows is growing across the street in a building they don't represent, tenants in the market list that the furniture vendor gave them over lunch, right? Brokers know who they want to get the marketing message in front of, but still to this day, and I think this is why Realty Ads, without sounding like hubris, has grown at the pace that we've grown is because of the fact we're able to close the chasm that exists between marketing and brokerage. Forever, commercial real estate has created fantastic content. But it's the old adage to me, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does it make a noise? That's how we feel about the content we created in commercial real estate, meaning it just never got in front of the right people enough times to really make an impact. And by looping in the brokers to this process, meaning where they can pick and choose their audience in real time, and by giving them access to more effective channels to deliver that message, right, i.e. LinkedIn versus, say, an email blast, which has pretty abysmal open rates, we've seen great participation out of the brokers, and as you said, really democratizes the marketing efforts or the market awareness an asset is able to realize. And we are big believers. We use the term at Realty as just customer journey, and Aisling hit on it really eloquently earlier when you were talking about the duration of the sales cycle in commercial real estate. I do think, to get back to the original question, today, maybe someone looking for 1 or 2 offices or 1,000 square feet will sign, sight on scene, a license agreement. I do think with time, as technology advances, the size of that deal is going to get bigger and bigger. Now, it's not going to be 50,000 square feet tomorrow or something, but if we can create a more educated customer before they ever step foot in a building, that's going to bode really, really well for leasing activity. And so at Realty Ads, we talk about this customer journey and how we're going to help the customers, right, try to maximize the message and the story of the individual building before a customer ever steps foot in the building. And then, of course, after they leave the building too, which is the longest part of the sales cycle and the most competitive, and so on and so on. So I do think today, one singles and doubles or something are doing, sight on scene, signing up for space. But I do think, 5, 10 years, that's going to be, there's going to be some changes going on.
It almost has, we have to have a little bit of a change in the way buildings are financed or the way that lenders think about buildings, right? They can't think about them as bonds anymore. They have to think about shorter term deals and cranking more velocity through the space. And I think that's what you're talking about is velocity. And, I think if you have really great spec suites and you have really, really good tours of those spec suites, you could probably get a 10,000 foot deal done without the person actually ever laying eyes on it, right? Or the final decision maker. I'm sure somebody locally would be touring it, but the decision maker sitting back in another city might say, okay, well, let's go, right? So I think you're exactly right.
And I'm not sure, just to make it a little more personal, like, I think we're getting there. Maybe I'm not even doing it, giving us ourselves enough credit. Like, we're a tenant in the market in Chicago, right? Realty Ads is a growing company. We need more space. We went and looked at some assets. More than half of the assets we looked at, we might as well, never have walked into because the space isn't even built yet. It's not like going to look at a house. It's just essentially shell conditions. So those ownership groups, to their credit, had actually invested in some tours and showed us what it would look like furnished, and then they're all pushing to make it as simple as possible. The space is going to be wired, it's going to be furnished, here's how it's going to look, here's the paint schemes we're doing, you can see it all in the virtual tour, and then we're comfortable with the term commitment that you are that allows your business to grow at the pace you want it to grow at, right? Versus, hey, you got to do 15 years if you want furniture. So it's funny, I was saying kind of one thing, but then in our own personal experience from touring the market, we are seeing these owners really push these digital channels, and it was really important for us to see. And I also thought it helped the building owners tell a really complete story, meaning, oh, is this space, you think this might be a little too small? Well, let me just show you another space without leaving, where we are right now on our iPad about what, you could get 2 times this space's size, right? And so they were walking us all through it right on the spot.
We just had the experience, we renewed for a short term in our current location, but we were looking at space, and frankly, a really great virtual tour would have been better than half the tours we saw with live brokers, to be very honest.
I want to provide an opposing view on this matter. Yeah. We're all assuming that virtual tours are really, really successful, and our data shows that it's not. It's actually reducing the conversion rate. We're showing the space before we let people come in, and we're only showing a portion of the story. It's just the space. It's not the experience, which is so critical to our strategy at Silverstein. Virtual tours are really hard to get right and really hard to make look really, really appealing and beautiful. So for us, it's only a tiny, tiny fraction of our kind of whole marketing strategy. So do I think that eventually we will see kind of direct deals and people will sign leases before they've even seen the space? Like, yes, possibly for the lower commitment. I think when you lower the commitment, it's always easier to make an impulsive decision online. I think as you increase the commitment and you increase the price, people will kind of want a kind of more high touch, in-person experience. And that's ultimately how you can tell your story a little bit better, is to kind of like live and breathe the experience. It's not just about showing physical space.
And I think it's also just a factor of what we see economically in the space. If you're marrying someone, i.e., 10-year lease commitment, which hopefully your marriage lasts longer than that. But if you're marrying someone, you need to see the whole building. You need to walk off the train, go see the space, meet the broker, meet the property manager, and feel really, really, really comfortable. If we think with COVID, people are going to be looking for shorter term, i.e. you're dating someone, then maybe you're far more likely to say, okay, well, it's 10,000 feet and it's 3 years. Worst case, I'm out of here in 2.5 years, and I've got free rent to cover me at my next location, right? And then that way you could be much more bullish on how you're going out and leasing space. So I think the deal term, like length, is a critical component of what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's like a dating app. You swipe to get the date, not for marriage.
That's new. Yeah. Well, so, as we all kind of like having all this kind of like a rising technology help us to, getting smoother with the leasing process, right? So there is virtual tour that you can experience before you actually go check it out. There is, our like vendor for landlords who are like Silverstein, right? So who are willing to kind of like provide more and better experience to our clients. So in you guys' opinion, do you think actually in the future of each transaction can be made online?
I mean, I think we kind of discussed it. I think that in the short run, yes, the lower commitment, I can totally see it. We see it in our co-working spaces. We see it in our residential portfolio. But for the larger commitment, if you're signing a deal for 100,000 square feet, people are probably going to want the high touch experience. They're going to want to smell the new car smell. They're going to experience it for themselves. I think so. Short run, for smaller deals, yes, I do think that maybe it'll become like the premium offering, right? You kind of get this in-person experience, kind of like for a premium, kind of like how you'd experience like bank telling, right? You do everything online, but if you want to kind of sit down and ask some questions with your financial advisor, you may come in and sit down. Absolutely. For a more premium, elevated experience.
Cool, thank you.
I love that idea, right? Yeah. Of a more premium experience, that's what you get. I think that's very smart.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. So recently I kind of like saw like somebody develop a virtual tour tool. So not only that you're able to see what your future of the office may look like, you can actually directly place order of, the furnitures that you guys wanted to have, the paint that you wanted to pick, and then the vendor is actually just going to come in to make it happen. So I think, that's very fantastic, fascinating that, it's kind of like office leasing just becomes as online shopping, right? Like you can easily just go into that and then to make your office ready by tomorrow or a certain time.
And I think the truth of, the answer is somewhere in like some combination of all of these things. Like we talk about, the who, what, and the why at Realty Ads. Ashling earlier was talking about the importance of reaching influencers, right? You're not going to be able to get a whole company to come in and look at your space, right? So you got to make sure that the content, whether it's a virtual tour or anything else, is reaching the right people. The who and the what is the message, and you got to keep telling it to the right people throughout the entire customer journey, which we've talked about, both pre and post tour. Specifically for the larger tenants, right? We always got to be top of mind, because if your building's not top of mind, another one is, right? And that's what we have to do. So it's not just virtual tours or bust, right? It could be a really neat drone video. It could be a message about the air filtration systems that Sam was talking about earlier. It could be a partnership with Uber, right? If your employees aren't comfortable taking public transportation and your building has a subsidy with Uber, which we saw in Chicago, that I thought was pretty neat. Whatever the message is, it's about reaching the customer at the right time throughout the entire deal. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to help you, as far as, leasing trends on the horizon, that's going to help you compete for revenue at the highest possible level if you're able to successfully tell that story throughout a deal. Because the opposite is, you have a wonderful ownership group like Silverstein who buys a building, they put $60 million in a U.S. Bank Tower out in LA.
Yeah.
And the tenant rep is not incentivized to tell the story at all. The tenant rep is doing the opposite. They're burying your building in a Microsoft Excel document, comparison matrix, where it's exclusively about 5 or 6 months of gross free rent, not about the $60 million check you just stroked, right? Yeah. So you need to find ways to activate your customers throughout the journey and not let that tenant rep just bury you in some Excel document, which has already been antiquated for 20 years,
Yeah, we've had to traditionally over the years, we've had to leverage tech and social and digital advertising to expand our key audiences, because like you've been saying, traditionally in this market, we would have to rely on tenant rep brokers to include our building in their short list to their clients. And it was only during the touring phase that we got to pitch these prospective tenants. And we needed to be up at the beginning of the funnel and all the way throughout and control that message. So we have always traditionally kind of leveraged social and digital to target these prospective tenants, C-level, down to the interns. Back in the Wild Wild West, before Apple had changed kind of all of their social targeting, through the upgrade a few months ago, we were able to micro-target specific groups of individuals in a certain company. So I knew, you work for, Trevor here, and I understand that you perhaps live in the Upper East Side, but you're concerned about coming down to the World Trade Center because you have this perception that it's really far away. And I was able to run, these kind of subliminal ads just to the two of you to kind of show how it's actually really, really easy. It's really, really quick. And here's some other, of your friends who actually work down here. So using that to kind of break through the noise and to kind of not solely rely on your broker to represent you, and also to provide you with the most accurate insights. Because a lot of the times we've done a lot of market research and we've realized that people make decisions based on emotional decisions, but they justify it with rational ones. So you'll hear that, we got the deal done because the economics were great. No, they didn't. They love that view and they feel really, really impressive with that corner office and that view. That's what got the deal, but they're going to tell you that it was the economics. So that was another thing that we really had to leverage, were these kind of like emotional reasons that kind of trigger a decision.
Yeah, I love that. So that's exactly the kind of like the feedback that I got from my team, my marketing team. So Jessica was there. So I think for a while we were trying to, kind of like really hard to put on a lot of ads. I wish I know your platform back then. We actually spent a lot of time and money on, kind of like different channels.
Probably.
No, that was like 3 years ago. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm glad if you guys are here, we probably can make a much better job. Yeah, so, we kind of, played with all kind of like the metrics, the measure to convert the contents to attract the local neighborhood. We even look into the gender, like, most of the people who came for a tour, they were male, and then we probably have to, kind of like put into some girls in the photo maybe, or, some other things to attract, to increase the lead generation. Eventually, through our kind of like discover from the real tour, we realized that what actually make them to make decision is that emotional feeling about the view, because we're actually in the penthouse view. So we're on the tallest building in the tallest floor throughout the whole Bay Area. People actually are able to see, the whole Silicon Valley. So that was actually really the key components for that piece of contents that is very easy for us to ignore. I wish, I seriously wish back then I could know more about, the experience, the emotional attachment to a decision, and also definitely have such a wonderful platform like you guys have. Yeah, so this is very important. And also, Aisling, so I have another question for you. So, as a developer that you guys have, many more different properties in different locations, do you actually see recently that, different locations of clients, they actually started to, move very frequently between all the properties that you guys have?
Well, I think that because we are now offering this kind of ability for all of our tenants working in all of our buildings to access every single one of our buildings, it's like a passport kind of membership. We are focusing more in kind of portfolio-wide kind of campaigns and messaging to make people, if I could create like a cult brand for Silverstein Properties, I think I can retire. Mm-hmm. And if people can become in love with that brand and can understand that you get the same level of service and experience wherever you are across the country, we've done our job well. So for that reason, yes, we kind of do have more of a national portfolio-wide approach from our marketing perspective. And running campaigns on digital and social is very inexpensive, so we can test to see how effective it is, and then we can adapt when it doesn't work. But yeah, before we acquired US Bank Tower in LA in 2020, we didn't have a very national approach, but now we do.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so, one of the things I constantly wonder is, so for example, some of the clients that we represent, right? So their preference in terms of office location changes according to where their employees are. So, for example, we have been working with limelight for a long time. And then, at one time they wanted to launch an office in Las Vegas, but we don't have any, resources in there. And also as, a person who actually provides the flexible office experience, we just wouldn't be able to scale our service with them because they grow too fast. So for this kind of clients, for me, I think it's constantly a pain, right? So we do have the ability to help that, but the thing is we just don't have the channel where we don't have, the scalabilities to catch up faster enough. So I wonder, Sam, from your perspective, that, as kind of like broker in the past, and also WeWork definitely is a different story that, WeWork has so many locations are being to, scale with clients. So in your opinion, how do you see this might be a change, and also how do you see that this might be very essential for brokers or for landlords to consider their, global footprint?
It's clearly, I think about real estate as local, and I think what you're trying to do with the Silverstein brand is brilliant, right? And CBRE Global Investors, I don't know if there's anybody here from that group, but they had done that with their, it was originally called their 5-star program, and then they've changed the name to a different things now. I forget what they call it today. But that is an interesting way to create a brand that helps you bring people across, right, and make them feel a part of something. Mm-hmm. And I think when you can create some level of exclusivity as associated with being in the Silverstein Club, that is valuable. And I think I don't think that's going to go away. Mm-hmm. I think the question is, how do you add to that value? What are you doing for your customers that do have a distributed workforce? Are you helping them figure out how to manage their distributed workforce and so that they know they can always get to a Silverstein property wherever they're based, mm-hmm. right? So if I can have a touchdown desk in Lower Manhattan, even though our office is in Midtown, that might be a good way for me to make that happen. And so I think about that all the time and think that that's really a smart way to leverage what you have in a city like New York, which is size, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool.
We see it a lot too. That was kind of from the consumer's perspective, like the person executing the lease. But we see it from an ownership group's perspective, getting in front of brokers, the national presence being very important, and how easy they are to do deals with. For instance, I guess I should use the landlord's name, but they're running an effort with us. And what they're promoting essentially this month is their ability, hey, we've got the capital, we've got the motivation to be essentially aggressive, and we can make this a really seamless process for you, the broker, and ultimately the customer you represent, right? So in that way, it's a national effort. The brand is very important because they want the broker, even if they're based in Chicago, when they've got their customer ask for space in LA, they want to say, hey, we got to throw ownership group ABC on the tour because I know they really stick their neck out to get things done with, on behalf of my customer. So a little bit of a different way to think about it. But we see that as really critical, building the brands, in the marketplace, whether that's the broker you're trying to reach or the customer.
In your opinion, do you think, the office leasing field, the marketing or, the branding, does it going to change to B2B type of, from B2B type of marketing to B2C?
I think you need both, to be quite honest. I mean, if you're missing brokers, you're not competing for tenants at the highest level, as I always say. And if you're missing the customer, you're not competing for tenants at the highest level. And we've always at least thought we were doing a good job reaching brokers. I might, have my own opinions about that. Because I see the open rates on our customers' emails, right, which is how they think they're reaching brokers routinely and at scale. But yeah, you absolutely need both. I mean, 97% of the deals we see in Chicago still have a broker behind them, and so you got to be reaching the broker. You have to be broker friendly, but you also need to reach the customer. And by customer, I don't just mean the CFO and CEO and COO and real estate director. You do need to reach the up and coming SVPs and influencers. That can help, when it's in the boardroom, right? Say, well, this is really important to our fraction of the company, which may be a little younger, because we don't come in from the suburbs. We all live downtown, so now all of a sudden location is more important, right? And,
for sure.
And so, yeah, you absolutely need both, in my opinion.
Okay, cool. Thank you. This is exciting that we also identify that changes and then to apply the personal preference into the marketing is new, but also we wanted to make sure we have the right boundary, not something too personal, but also have the business presence in there. So as I think we're running about time, I do wanted to leave some time to the audience. So if our lovely audience have any questions, we would like to answer that.
Yeah, and I will run around with this microphone. I didn't see any questions in the chat feature, so for that reason, I will move in this way.
Okay.
Okay.
I could just kind of yell.
Okay, that works too.
I know.
It was for yourself, Ashley.
Ashley, yeah.
So you mentioned about building a cult following and giving tenants access to amenities in all of your buildings. Have you gone so far as to reserve some spaces of flex area so that people can drop in? Or is it also just like you can drop in?
Yeah, no, absolutely. A big portion of this is kind of like our on-demand workspaces and meeting spaces. As Sam had mentioned, that we're constantly trying to take the friction out of the whole leasing, experience and the kind of workday experience. And a lot of friction comes from CEOs not knowing where, like, a location to choose because half of their staff lives in one neighborhood, the other half lives in another, and they don't know who to choose and who to preference. Having the ability to have access to a passport of different meeting spaces and conference rooms and touchdown kind of offices means that you can feel pretty confident in your decision to choose one main office space, and then you have a collection of these kind of satellite offices. It means that you can kind of reduce your kind of footprint or become a little bit more, it can be just more of a productive way to use your space, essentially. So yeah, that's a big part of it, is kind of using the best environment for your workday. Yeah.
Anyone else have a question? I am going to use the microphone too if you do, so that the video camera can pick up your question.
Yeah, we have the
All
lady
right.
over there.
I was wondering for realty ads if you see an applicability for acquisitions and dispositions as well.
Absolutely. So we talked a lot about asset marketing today, but we already have customers in the capital markets field, really across the country. We also do a lot of brand marketing for commercial real estate firms, big firms like, of course, CBRE. Corporate marketing all the way down to upstarts like Rentbrella, who have a new idea in prop tech and want to push it out to the same existing customers that we often deal with, meaning asset managers, local brokers, etc.
Do we have any questions?
All right. Well, if that's it, we'll go ahead and take a quick 2 or 3 minute break and wait for our last panelists to arrive. James Sheeran's going to be doing a fireside chat. So we're going to get going in just 2 minutes.
All right. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
being on
everyone.
this panel. Thank you.